This is just the calculator section of the notes 4546 linear regression. So we're going to go over just how to work with the calculator. The first thing when you work with the calculator though is you want to change your window. Make sure your window is set up. You want to make sure it's standard. Mine is standard, but just in case you're going to click on zoom and then you'll click on number 5, which is this is notes 4546 linear regression. We're just doing the calculator part in this video just so you can remember how to do the calculator. If you need some help with any of this, then stop the video, go back and watch part of it because you can always pause. So when you have a calculator, the first thing you want to do is you want to set up, make sure everything's default, ready to go. If you notice I've got a line there, if I press y equals, I have an equation in there. I'm going to go ahead and clear this. Also, notice that my plot 1 is highlighted. That messes up graphing sometimes, so I'm going to press enter when I move up there and it turns it off. The other thing to check is your zoom. Zoom, and you want it on standard. What we're doing today is going to switch this a little bit, but it's a good place to start with this. Okay, best fit lines. We've learned how to do that with the trend line, but with the calculator, it's helpful because it's a lot more accurate than our eyes sometimes. So when we're working with regression and best fit lines, what we want to do is make sure that diagnostics are on because it turns on this thing called the correlation coefficient. So on a TI-84 Plus, you're going to find that by clicking on mode. And you're going to go down to where it says Stat Diagnostics on. If you have an older model, TI-84, the black and gray ones, or even yellow sometimes, you won't necessarily have this in your menu. Come and see me and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so Stat Diagnostics should be on. Again, to make it go on, you go over to on and press enter. I just turned mine on, so it's ready to go. The next thing that we did is setting up your calculator to make scatter plots. So what we just did, you don't have to do all the time. Same thing with this one. We can turn on scatter plots. We've been graphing. When we graphed the line, it wasn't a scatter plot. So we're going to set this up so it will show scatter plots. So you go to second y equals. And this is called stat plots. Above the y equals button it says stat plot. Press enter and then press enter on and make sure that the scatter plot is also highlighted. If it's not highlighted, then move over to it, press enter. Okay, if you need to practice those things, pause the video and go back and do that. Follow the presentation slides because they follow with what I'm doing on the calculator. So after we set this up to make scatter plots, the next thing is to put in our table. For this example we did in class, it goes by the years, but the last sentence in the instructions say let X be the number of years since 2000. So that's why I changed those to 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 because those are the years since 2000. I also put a Y above the cost. So the cost is going to be the Y values. That's the second column. So we have to enter the data. To do this, you're going to use the stat menu. The stat menu you get to by pressing stat. So over on this side, it's just to the left of the arrow buttons. So click stat. And then there's two things we do in here, edit and calc. You can change from the edit menu to the calc menu by just using the arrow. There's also a test menu, but we're just going to stick with edit and with calc. Edit, we're going to use the number 1 edit function, and then calc, we're going to use number 4 linear regression. So first we're going to put the table in there. We're going to edit the table. So you press enter. And over here is L1 and L2 in a table. L1 is going to be our X values. L2 is going to be our Y values. So go ahead and enter the data in your calculator. Pause the video if you don't have it in yet, but go and put that in there. If you need to delete anything, you can just click on delete and it'll make it go away. Now that I've deleted that though, I've got to go and retype everything. So I'm just pressing delete to make those go away. And I'm going to put in 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and I'm pressing enter to go down, and I did make a mistake on 2 of them. I'll go back and fix those. So to fix those, I'm just going to go back up here. This should be a 12, so you can overwrite. And this one is 14. Notice that the left column and right column are also the same length. If you get an error on it, it's usually because you have a mismatched dimension, it's called, and your length of those is not the same. So both columns should have the same quantity of numbers in there. Okay, so that's entering the data. If you need to pause the video at this point, again, do that. The next thing we'll do is to see the data in a scatter plot. We're going to press zoom. So the zoom button is at the top in the middle, and we want to see the stat plot. We've been working in the stat menu, so I'm going to come down here to number 9 and press enter. So it zooms in on just the points that I entered in on the stat table is what it's doing. We also want to calculate, so we're going to create the regression equation by pressing stat and then the calc option. So press stat and then arrow over to calc. Then you go down to number 4 and you press enter. XList is L1, so that's just saying in the stat table L1 is our X's, L2 is our Y's. The frequency, we don't do anything with that. But we're going to change this to be Y1 on the calculator because I want it to take whatever equation it comes up with and I want it to paste it into the Y equals menu so I can graph it. So to get to there, I'm going to press alpha Y equals and then arrow over to Y var. There's a different menu. We want this menu. Y var says Y1, so I'm going to press Y1. And what it will do is take my line equation and paste it into Y equals under the Y1 line. And then I need it to calculate, so I'm going to come down to calculate and press enter. So here's the equation of the line. The linear equation, regression equation is shown. A is the slope, B is the y-intercept. The r at the bottom, we want r to be between -1 or close to -1 and 1. The closer the r value is to 1, the better our line is, the better it fits the data. So that's a pretty good fit. So we're going to leave that value. And now if I go to y equals, see what it did? It put y1, it took that equation and pasted it into y1. Now we're going to graph this, and you can see how well it fit it. And you just do that by pressing graph. So over here it says now press graph to see how well it fits. So there it is. It fits pretty well. It goes right down the middle. Again, pause the video if you need to go back and practice that again. The next thing that we're going to do is our data only went up to 2015. So we're going to extrapolate the data. We're going to stick in a number to see what would happen in the year 2020. So I want to put 20 into this equation. There's a real nice way to do this because now my calculator thinks that y1 is that equation, and any x value that I stick in there, it will calculate it for us. So method 1 is to substitute the value in and just to do this by hand, which is what's going on right here in this method 1. So there's the method 1. We just plug in the 20 into the equation and then calculate it. Method 2 is to do this on the calculator. So we're going to press second quit. And then I want to tell the calculator that x is 20. So we're going to use the store button, which is right down here at the bottom next to the 1. So I'm going to put in 20 and then press the store button and x. So what that does is it tells my calculator that x equals 20. I'm going to press enter. So it does that and it just says 20, x is 20. So now I want it to calculate the y1 value when x equals 20. So again, to get to y1, we're going to go second y equals, alpha y equals. And then after alpha y equals, we're going to go over to y var, press enter to get y1 to cut and paste onto the screen, and then press enter. So what it's just done is it did the same thing right here. And the better prediction is probably the method 2, only because it's keeping track of all the decimals. Here we rounded these numbers, so method 2 is the better one. So that's the basics of doing this with the calculator. If you have any questions or you need to review this, please go back and review this so that you can understand how to do this. It's up to you to learn this so that when it comes to the tests and quizzes, you are good to go. Let me know if you have questions. I can help you with anything that you need. All right, see you in class.